Hello. Hi.
Afternoon, Forbes. How you doing?
I am good. Sorry about last week. I got stuck.
No, it's okay. Do you have any guests coming on today?
I do have one. And
Okay,
he'll be
great.
joining
Cool.
us in I'll point my microphone this way, which might make more
Hey,
sense.
there we go. Perfect.
All right.
Can hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Forbes, we have about 1 minute till showtime.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, this feature's not available. What is that about? Okay, let's try that again. Live on Facebook.
Forbes, did you want to roll solo till the guest gets here, or did you want to wait for the guest to come in?
No. I'm fine by myself.
Oh, okay. No problem. Well, we have about 30 seconds to hear the sound.
All right.
Ten seconds. Have a great show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Forbes Factor, featuring celebrity TV host, million-dollar entrepreneur, and renowned health and fitness superstar, Forbes Riley. A familiar face from TV, as well as one of today's most sought-after female motivational speakers today. You'll connect with some of the top experts in health and fitness, business and personal development, as well as some surprise celebrities, all sharing their insight, tips, and tricks to finding true happiness. Now, here's your host, Forbes Riley.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Forbes Factor, one of my favorite times of the week because I get to hang out with you guys. I know, right? I have a fun guest today, and I have some fun things to share. Let's see, where shall I start? Oh, yeah, I know. I'm going to start with the idea that I just launched a new training today called Make Money with Forbes. Oh, my gosh. I all of a sudden realized that a lot of the things that I take for granted, a lot of the tools and techniques and things that I do to earn 7, 8, and 9 figures, I know, right? Most people don't know. And it never dawned on me until just recently to share them the way I'm doing it. And I created this training. There are a couple hundred people on the line today, and it was magical. It was magical because by tomorrow, any of them who decides to will have actually made more money. I know. I'm just very, very proud of that. I'm excited. It is April. It's my first broadcast of April, which is my birthday month. And you know how much I love gifts and love and all those other fun things. All right, guys. No, I do take it very seriously. And I'm actually heading off to Costa Rica for a month with my daughter. That is what the laptop lifestyle will afford you. And be broadcasting from down there, doing 2 masterminds while we're there. But for my birthday, hanging out at the base of a volcano that has 35 different hot tub pools, all made from fresh mineral springs. Yeah, I'm turning 85, and don't I look good? No, that's not true. That's not true. And I also can see you guys because we're broadcasting live on Facebook, and I'll pop in my Clubhouse because that's my new favorite platform. You know why? No, it's not because you get to meet really cool people. It's not because you stay up all night. It's because I don't have to wear makeup and I can broadcast, and it's fun. And my guest knows all about this because he never has to do his hair. He doesn't have to do his eyelash. He doesn't have, well, maybe he does. I don't know what he's doing, but I don't think he has to. I think he's wonderful all by himself. I do want to welcome some of our friends today. I've got Elif all the way from London is here. Terry and Ashley Mellencamp. Ashley, we're talking to your guy upstairs. That's why I was almost a little late about Shopify and blowing up the stores. You know, guys, I have a lot of isms that I live by. And I talk about them, I used to call them magnetisms, because I think they started out as actual magnets on my mom's refrigerator. One is that you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. Yeah, you know what's great about this one? Is that when life goes sour, you go, yay. Life happens for you, not to you. Life goes sour, you go, yay. Because we want to take all of the negative things that have happened to you and turn them into the fuel to move you forward. That is what I seem to have done for me and anyone within the sound of my voice, is that life isn't fair or perfect, or maybe not even by design. I'm not so sure. I'm just going through it. I don't even know if it's my first time here. Who knows? I listen to everybody's theory about everything. I have lived on ashrams. I have traveled the world. I have talked to people and kings and princes and people on the street all around the world. And none of us seem to have any more answers than the other. Some people think they do, and those people I steer away from. I'm not a big fan of people who will tell you that their belief, whatever it is right. It's just their belief. In fact, I often have people spell out the word believe, B-E-L-I-E-V-E. Oh, that's a little lie in the middle of that. Yeah, it's just a way of me thinking. There's some things I do believe in. It's funny. I don't think I believe in gravity, but I'll drop this pen. Oh, and it falls. It doesn't matter if I believe in it or not. It still works. That's how I feel about manifesting. I don't know if you believe in it or not. Doesn't matter. If you think about things long and hard enough and you project them in the right way and you architect them and you speak them and you have a sense of joy in your heart and you give more than you get, all kind of fun things come to you. Yeah, that is not necessarily how I was taught growing up by certain institutions. So I live by my isms. And you guys can write some of these down, Olga, if you want, in the chat. One of my other isms is that how you do something is how you do everything. So my challenge for all of you listening is, if you walk out of the grocery store and you take all your bags and you realize there was something underneath, like some waters or something that you didn't pay for, they didn't charge you for it, what do you do? Now, if you hesitated for a moment, thought, well, they'll never know, or I'm in a rush, I could just leave. Again, I'm not judging. I'm just asking you, what do you do? And how do you feel about what do you do? Are you the kind of person who goes back and pays for it because is it the right thing to do? I'm not even going to put that judgment. Sometimes if something, if they give you that 13th donut in a dozen, you don't give it back. That's part of the treat. So I'm karmically, Elif says you take it back. Good for you. Now, again, I'm not going to judge you, but I will decide if I want to be in business with you. So Deidre, Lynn Kelly, she says honesty and karma. I got it. Grocery store, I'd go back, as honesty is the only way. Thank you, Tacey. I'm loving my Tacey's my producer here on the network. Thank you. Thank you. So those three women I would do business with, but I'll tell you what, there's a couple of people who thought, I'll take it one step further. There is a bag of money in a brown paper bag, right? Sitting in the middle of a street, you're in the middle of nowhere, nobody on either side of you, you've been driving for miles. There's $25,000 in it. What do you do? What do you do? And it's just a question for all of you to think about it. And honesty, who knows what is honesty? I'm just going to say, what do you do? And how do you feel about what you do? And how do you justify what you do? And I just want you to take a look at it. I don't want to be judgmental, because I don't know if honesty as a word is the best policy, Linda. You know why? Your friend walks in and she looks a little fat in that outfit. Are you the one to say, ooh, honestly, that makes you look fat? Or might you say, that's not the best outfit for you? Is it honest, not honest? Just again, testing the waters here. I would find the owner and give it back. Elif, let me share something with you. As sweet as that is, there is no owner. It is a brown paper bag full of $25,000 in the middle of a road. For as far as you can see, there's nobody. There's no markings on it at all. Think about this, my girlfriend, with the big heart. What do you do? Do you give it to the police? Do you give it to charity? Do you keep it? And again, it's a conversation. And I say that's not honestly. What does that mean? You go to the police station, see if someone has reported the loss of the money. If not, they might give it back. If not, they might give it back, which would be a bonus. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if I would do that. Think about it. Who knows? I'm again just asking you guys. I have a lot of honest people that I apparently listen to me, which I really like, and big-hearted, generous people. Good. See, all right. This is part of the conversation of hanging out with me. Being disruptive, just taking things and not always following what everyone else does just because everyone else is doing it. To find out who the fabric of you is. And then let's go one step deeper before I bring on my first guest and just talk about, who are you? Do you love you? Do you think that you deserve great things coming to you? Do you sabotage yourself? Do you play small? You always say that you play small. You know, it's an interesting thing. And I just take a moment. That's what you're doing here on Forbes Factor today, as we're uncovering and continuing to uncover the secrets behind health, wealth, and happiness. All right, I would like to bring on Mr. Billy. I know he generously turned off his camera for a second. One of my new friends, and I've met some great friends. He's a fellow podcaster. He is brilliant at what he's done. I've listened to some of his work. He's also an ex-Tesla executive and the founder and CEO of Podify. Look at that nice little room that you're in. Billy Samoa, is it? I don't know. I don't know how to do the last name. So Billy, Salevi. That's a great name. Hi, Salevi. Where does that name come from?
It's Lebanese. My dad and his both of his parents are from Lebanon. Actually, his grandparents are from Lebanon, and so yeah, it's a Lebanese last name. Most people can't pronounce it, so you're not alone. Believe me.
When did they come here?
You know, around the turn of the century, around 1900. So we've been in the U.S. for generations.
And so, what does it mean for you? What does Lebanese mean for you?
I love that question. Wow. Okay. So, you know, it means, honestly, I wish I had more of a connection to Lebanon, because I've met so many incredible Lebanese people throughout my life, but I don't speak Arabic. I don't have any real, I mean, let's face it, 3 generations is a long time. 100+ years is a long time. You know what I mean? So I have a yearning to go to Lebanon and to be a part of it a bit more than I have been. So that's what it means to me.
Well, and it's funny because I feel very similar. I'm Ukrainian by birth. I have a large amount of Russian and Ukrainian students and people that I deal with all the time. And I've always wanted to go back and see what Kiev and Odessa look like. I'm not sure where I fit in, but it is nice to have a starting point, I guess. And it's funny because the further away I get, I don't know that I've passed a lot of traditions on to my kids, and I'm feeling a little guilty about that. It's like,
Oh yeah.
You know, where do you live?
So I live in Los Angeles. And you're in Florida? Is that right?
Yeah, it's funny. I spent 25 years in LA. You have an LA vibe about you. Oh, okay. Where in LA are you?
So I lived in Venice for years, but I've lived all over the West Side. Right now I live right by Loyola Marymount, which is where I went to school. So I'm like a block from LMU, right near the airport in Westchester, which is, nobody knows Westchester in LA. Everybody knows Westchester.
Hasn't it?
Oh my God. It's crazy. It's like a little hometown USA in LA, which is really cool because we got our Little League and there's the 4th of July parade. And it's very, like, again, it's kind of like hometown USA, but in a big city.
Well, it's funny because I lived up in Van Nuys for 25 years. I had a big home up there in a very residential area which I thought was rather unique because every house on the other blocks was 60 feet away from the curb line. And like Marcus Welby's home is there, and they would film every week. And we would get money as a community because the trucks are so big and so pervasive. And we would have these massive parties. And I loved my neighborhood so much up there. And
do you miss LA?
Unique.
Do you miss it?
You know what I miss? I miss the people, the culture, the fun, the movies, everything that is LA. You know what I don't miss? Driving 2 hours to go to the grocery store.
Oh. Yeah.
At some point, my head wanted to explode. You know, I hosted the Laugh Factory on Sunset Boulevard for 3 years, which is kind of cool. Most people don't know that. I've done 20 or 30 television series between hosting and acting. LA is my vibe. It's my jam. It's my everything. And at some point, it just kind of turned and got weird. And the traffic got so hard that I'm like, I can't live in a place where I can only get to one appointment. That if I'm in Burbank and want to go to Culver City and then maybe out in Calabasas, never going to happen. Never. And you're like, you guys have to move. When I first moved there in 1980, though, I lived in a 1-bedroom shack on the canals of Venice.
Oh, nice.
It now goes for $2.5 million.
Oh, probably more.
Oh my God, right. Probably more. This was a tiny little shack. I wish I'd kept it.
I know. It's crazy. Well, then, you know, I lived I lived right near Speedway. So like I could see the ocean from my front yard. We had a jacuzzi in our front yard, but it was a tiny little house. So I was like, okay, we need to expand.
You don't care. Venice had such a charm to it. That's such a great memory for me. Oh, talk about earthy and fruit and nuts. And yeah. All right. So you've had quite a journey though. So let's start with, did you grow up in LA?
I did. I'm one of the rare few. I was born in Samoa, the island, thus the name. But I only lived there for 6 months. So I've been in LA my whole life. The only other places that I've lived is New York City and London. I'm a city guy. So I only lived in London and New York for about a year.
Go back. I was born in Samoa as to Lebanese. That's I'm sorry, we were stopping over. How did that happen?
But, you know, most people say, are you in the military? No, my dad was teaching there. So he's just doing his dissertation for his PhD on Samoan culture, specifically how they are educated. It was a educational psychology PhD. And so he was studying Samoans, and I just happened to be born at that time. So it was just, and I've only been back once. We were supposed to go back last year, but with everything happening, we had to cancel our trip. So it's an amazing country, amazing culture, fascinating place to be born. And I was born in the 70s. So hippie parents like, oh, we'll name you Samoa.
I love that. I bet The Rock loves you. All right. So now you're in LA, you're growing up, and what do you want to be when you're little?
Baseball player my whole life. I played all the way through college. And then, you know, I'm not a big guy. I'm like 5'7". I started playing at Loyola, and everyone's like 6'4". They've been playing in like really competitive leagues. So I was out of my element a bit. And so I was like, okay, I pivoted, and then I got into film. And so that's what I did out of school as I made my movie. So I made a feature film after graduating.
Which was?
So I made a movie about the drug ecstasy. It's called Rolling, Rolling. So it was a documentary style feature where it's kind of like, if you've ever seen Ed Burns' movie Sidewalks of New York, where the characters are basically giving interviews to the camera, and intercut with that is the storyline. We took that same approach, but it was about the drug. So it's everyone from a drug dealer to a high school teacher, to a lawyer, to a doctor, to a raver, 8 different storylines interweaving. And really the through line is this is their experience on this drug over one night where they all collide and meet at this warehouse party in Los Angeles. And so the film did really well. We took it all over the world, film festivals, got picked up for distribution, you know, Netflix, and it was on every possible platform it could be on. But it was 7 years. And as you know, being entertainment, it's, you know, and especially as an independent, you know, I didn't want to have, you know, somebody like telling me what to do. So it took 7 years from the time I wrote the film in New York in 2003 until the time it was picked up in 2009. So I was like, I probably should pivot. And then in 2010, that's when I got into the renewable energy space and started that part of my journey.
Wow. So my first feature film, luckily, was an audition. After graduating college, I went to New York and said, I'm going to do this. And it was for the film Splatter University, which very, very low budget, but it turns out it's still here. 35 years later, it is still a film that people love. They love the character. And I'm sorry that my career hit a certain point and then it didn't get a lot bigger, but I'm glad that I wasn't the producer of those movies, because that's a very challenging position. I acted in lots of them, but man, producing it and owning it and taking it around, I give you a lot of credit for that. Now, do you not do that anymore at all?
So I do want to make more films, but my story my life journey took a big pivot because I just randomly got into solar specifically. So I joined this company. It was a relatively new company in Orange County called Varango Solar. One thing led to another. I did really well with sales. I think my server experience as a waiter in a restaurant served me well, pardon the pun, because I knew how to set expectations. I knew how to have a conversation. I knew how to over deliver on what I promised. And all these things that I learned from years of waiting tables, I applied to sales. So I set the company record for most sales. And they're like, oh, you should run a team. So I ran a team and set the company record for most sales for a team. Then they're like, okay, train the whole company. So I trained the whole company. And then they're like, okay, you just lead all of sales. So I was the VP of sales for the company. And then that led to me getting recruited by Solar City, which was owned by Elon Musk's cousins. And that's where I got into more of the learning and development and doing things like leadership training. That led to my journey at Tesla. So yeah, I mean, my career took a pivot.
I love this. We actually have commercials on this show because it's not technically a podcast. It's actually a international radio show. And I am fully produced by an amazing team out in Arizona. And I want to take a pause and give a break to my sponsors and tell everybody that you're listening to the Forbes Factor. We come back with Billy. We'll find out how hanging out with Elon Musk's cousins turned into the better part of his life. All right, I'm Forbes Riley. Don't go away.
All clear.
Thank you, my darling. Yeah, so we are produced, and we're also in my inner circle right now, live on Facebook. How did Billy get to Durango? Are you in Durango?
Varango. It was
Or-
Varango. That was the solar. That was
Varango.
the solar company. Yeah, that was through my brother.
Because that's what Laura is asking. Laura is one of my recent media mastery graduates. Yeah, I mean, I have that same kind of journey where I'm very much being an actress and a TV host. And if Sandra Bullock and Julia Roberts would have gotten out of the way, I know it's not really their fault. Although Julia followed me and she had her twins after I did. So, and so selling fitness products on television and launching HSN and QVC and blowing up an entire infomercial industry was like, well, it's kind of hard to go back to wanting to do theater on Hollywood Boulevard.
But that helped you, right? I mean, I'm sure that was the foundation that allowed you to be so successful in infomercials and everything else that you did there, right? I mean, I'm sure that was huge.
Let me tell you something. Everything was huge. I know how to use my voice and my body and improv and listen. And I mean, I'm an incredibly well-trained Broadway actress who's done dozens of feature films and television series. All of that made a big difference.
Yeah.
And then starting networks, I was around when cable TV started. So I helped launch Fit TV with Body by Jake that got sold for $500 million. And all of a sudden you started to see commerce and acting and I never waitressed. I had no patience for that, but I did walk in and end up being the host of the Laugh Factor for 3 years.
I bet I saw you. What years was that? What years were you doing that?
1990 to 91 to 94.
There's a very
I worked with everybody. Yeah, everybody from Ellen DeGeneres, Jerry Seinfeld, Robin Williams, the Wayans brothers, Norm Macdonald. I mean, I'm listening to people now. Dane Cook popped on the other night. I'm like, dude, hey, I haven't seen you in years. And I was probably the goofiest, probably the weirdest, goofiest, least experience to do that. And then I walked into Westwood One. You know who they are?
Sure, of course, yeah.
I had my own series. I took over for Off the Record with Mary Turner. Seconds. She married Norm, became a billionaire's wife, and I got the series. I'm not a DJ expert. How you doing?
All right, here we go.
You are listening to the Forbes Factor. To call in with a question or comment, please call 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. Or send an email to Forbes@ForbesRiley.com. Now back to the show. Here's Forbes Riley.
Everybody, welcome back. During the break, we're actually still live on my Facebook, and I'm getting comments like "Fun with Forbes. This is an amazing interview. Thank you, Billy. Elon Musk, and love seeing the behind the scenes with you guys," which is part of why I do this. I have a rather big birthday coming up this month, and I realized that one of the smartest things that I can do with my life at this point is, one, be a little transparent about how I got here, but also share, because I've had a crazy journey and I love pulling that out, like hearing that Billy was born in Samoa, just those things that no one ever asked those questions. And I don't hate, that's not fair. I don't hate anything. I love peace and muffins. I really don't, people lately, because I'm on podcasts probably 3 a day, send me a list of the questions I need to ask you. I'm like, I don't know, do your job. Listen and be innovative and be interesting, right?
Totally.
So Billy, why do you do what you do now?
So I left Tesla in 2019, and after leaving, I said, okay, here's my background. I have a background in learning and development. I have a background in film. I've always been inquisitive. I love asking questions. And so podcasting was just the right fit. I started my show Inside Out in 2019. Last year, I was very active on LinkedIn, and I ended up meeting a guy who said, I want to partner with you as a podcaster to build this company, Podify, to help other podcasters with their shows. So I started another podcast called For the Love of Podcasts, where I interview podcasters, and I started Podify, which is really a production house where we do everything A to Z, from editing to videos to web development, helping podcasters, because it's a lot of work to do it all. And so we take some of that burden off of people.
Yeah, that's part of what I want. Part of what I wanted to talk to you about. I don't want to skip over Elon Musk, because he'll get mad at me if I don't ask about him. He always does. You worked at Tesla? Tell me about that experience.
It's unlike anything that I had ever experienced in my life before, mainly because of the people, not just Elon, but everyone, including Elon, by the way. I mean, for me, I had the opportunity, or I was one layer removed at my peak. I was one layer removed from Elon. So my boss reported to Elon. So that was surreal, one, but it's like close to the sun, so to speak. And I had an opportunity to be on conference calls with him. The thing that stands out the most about him is his inquisitive nature, asking questions, like really trying to get to the root of whatever it is he's trying to solve. And then the other thing which I think most people know, is he uses what's called first principles thinking, which is not reasoning by analogy like, oh, these cars exist, so we should make a car like those cars, but incrementally better. He thinks things should be built from the ground up, thinking if this never existed before and all we had to think about was what are the laws of nature, like physics, that we have to take into account. Other than that, all else is fair game. And so allowing us to not be rigid in thinking, oh, because this has been done before, it should be done just like that. That's why he's such an innovator. He asks questions and he uses first principles thinking.
I didn't know there was a name for that. That's actually pretty clever. Huh. I like that. And so what was your position? What did you do there?
So I started in onboarding. So my team created all of the new hire experience for any employee that started at Tesla globally. So we created Launch, which is like how you start your career. And my team did this all over the world. Anyone that starts, and everyone from our Fremont factory, and we would take them and give them tours of the factory. We'd let them do test drives of the vehicles. We wanted to be representative of the feeling of what it's like to start at this incredible company, because guess what? They have high expectations. We need to over deliver on those expectations. So I'm very much about how do you create an immersive experience that people won't forget. And so the thing that I always focus on is what I call the peak end rule. So like, what is the high point? What is that thing that is going to blow people's minds? They're going to want to like tell their friends about. And then how do you end something? Because in psychology, people remember those high points and they remember something at the very, very end of an experience. And then I left Tesla as the global head of sales training and product training. So anybody that interfaces with a customer, my team would train them. And then that was my last position there.
Well, actually, this is a very interesting conversation. So I'm on a mission. There are very few female speakers at the level that I get to play at. In fact, I'm on tour right now. I'm the only female headliner between Deepak Chopra, Les Brown, Jack Canfield, and Damon John.
Wow.
But I have been a soulpreneur. My dad was a magician and an inventor. And so I've run multi-million-dollar companies. I don't know if have you ever seen this? Do you know what this is? Because you don't see this stuff on Clubhouse. This is my fitness. Okay, this is my multi-million-dollar fitness product.
Yeah.
It's called a spin gym. It actually rotates at 125,000 RPM. And in third world countries, you put a vial of blood on this and it spins so fast that it becomes a centrifuge.
Oh, wow.
And I've only sold this on home shopping. Sold a couple of million of them and not launched out to the world because it's a little issue that I'm having. And I'm not sure I'm alone. You know, there's only like one Elon. But imagine having a multi-million-dollar company and 2 employees. Mm-hmm. You're like, how do you do that? Well, aside from outsourcing to manufacturing and my accountant, I don't know. I didn't know any other way because I'd never had staff and people. And so ran all this. And I knew, and I actually draw this picture all the time. I was like, how do you magically have the second story of a house? Now, the first story should be all the team members and the foundation should be all the systems and processes. I don't have any of those. I just do this. And I do it over and over again to the point I kind of look at it going, okay, the magic trick is only going to last so long. It's going to implode. Be careful here. Because I've never worked in a company. So Billy, my ears are going, oh my God, the whole onboarding thing, the experience of, because I'm kind of notorious for not having an assistant. They last, let's see, the last one lasted 2 days, 9 days before she had a nervous breakdown, and maybe, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be the Murphy Brown. They don't even know what that reference is, but that seems to be, you're hard to work with. I'm like, well, because I expect you to be a mind reader. Aren't you not a mind reader? And I'm learning now, and hopefully going to teach this because I'm not the only one. As a soulpreneur, I think a lot of us are challenged with understanding the word delegation, the word team for real. And then this whole onboarding thing, the way you just said it, like just blows my mind right now. So if you were to construct a little bit of a methodology that you would say to somebody who's a soulpreneur, who's hit the ceiling, they're stressed out, they're doing it all themselves, they're trying to build funnels and they're working on their social media and they're on, it's going to explode. What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, it's normal that as you said, an entrepreneur, that you're avoiding giving anyone responsibility because you want to own it all. Like that's so common because the driver types know that they're going to get it done and they're going to get it done to the level that they expect. So you have to remember that your superpower is your superpower. And how do you offload the things that maybe you're good at, but you're not in love with doing? And there's probably somebody that could do as good, if not better job than you. So the way I think about this is like 4 steps. One is figure out what you could eliminate from what do you not need to do? Because we always are doing way too many things we don't need to do. That's the first thing. Second thing is there's so many tools and systems out there. Be relentless in finding out what are the automation tools that exist. Like, be relentless, like figure out there's always a way to automate. The third thing is the delegation of that to someone else. So find somebody that's amazing and give them the opportunity to shine. Give them the opportunity to go above and beyond and do better than what you would do. And then the final thing is you do those things like what you're doing right now, Forbes, is that's you. That's your superpower. It's communicating, it's conversations, it's being who you are. And so if you do those things, if you eliminate, automate, delegate, and do, those are the four things. And then the last piece, when you onboard somebody, the most important thing is that you give them a chance to meet other people within your organization, because people ultimately want connection. And so if you do a really good job of connecting them with other people who are working within your company, they're going to feel a sense of community and inclusion. They're going to feel included in the conversation. And that's really important from the very beginning.
And so now you would do this. The other thing I love, though, is this whole onboarding experience. Do you do that in your company? Have created an onboarding experience?
Yeah, well, so my company's brand new. So we launched our company last year, and my business partner does all of the day-to-day operations. And so, yes, when we thought about our initial onboarding, we wanted to make sure everybody started at the same time. So he had his existing company, and then we were adding new people to the company because it was shifting from a digital advertising agency to a podcast production company. And so we made sure that we waited until everybody was identified as the key player, and then we brought them on all at the same time. And then we had a 3-week training period where they would understand the culture, what we're all about, what we stand for, what are our values.
Okay, I've got people going nuts over the tips that you're giving. I'm going to drill this down. A 3-week training. My mind goes, how do you do that? I actually want to break it down a little bit. You bring somebody on new. What's a 3-week training to understand culture? What do you do?
Well, I think the thing to think about here is there's the technical part of it where you need to understand how to do your job. And then there's the culture part of it where you understand what the ethos of the company is and what we stand for. And so for anybody starting a company, it doesn't need to be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 week. It needs to be the right amount of time for your company. Actually, for us, it was 3 weeks, but it ended up being a month long of before we even started taking clients, it was a month-long period. So we were giving them things to practice on. So for us, it's podcast editing. So it's like, we wanted them to make sure that they understood like what we think a completed episode looks like. If there was issues with it, we want to make sure that we're over delivering on what we promise. So we want to make sure we have a certain sensibility when it comes to our video and our design work and like everything that we're doing. We have super high standards because both me and my business partner are we're perfectionists, bottom line. We're perfectionists. And so I think we also have to temper that with landing the plane, getting things done. And so finding that balance between perfection and actually completion. And so making sure that people were working at a fast pace, but also making sure they understood what level of quality we deem as the barrier that we needed to get past. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes more than sense. In fact, I've got Renelle over here. She says, I've never been exposed to this level of social media. My God, this is awesome. Such an important element. Terry writes, ugh, I wish I had worked for you. I do too. The only thing that two little regrets in business. One, that I didn't really serve as an apprentice for a very successful woman. My mom was very beautifully middle class and adorable and had plastic on the couches that we got from a thrift store because we didn't have a whole lot of money. But the most loving woman when you met her ever. But she'd buy, $1 t-shirts, never a $10 t-shirt, that kind of thing. And so when I got to a certain level of what I wanted, I actually lived with the Graces, this billionaire family, because I didn't know. And I knew I didn't know because I watched movies. And there was one time when Mrs. Grace were in the car and she turns to me, I'm like in my early 20s, and she says, long before social media, would you get Louis Vuitton out of the trunk? And I said, who's in the trunk? And she looked at me, she's like, oh, you'll learn. And I'm like, yeah, I will. Yes. Did they? Now I know. I'm like, oh my God, what an idiot. But I learned that. And the second, I would have loved to work for a company because now this is ridiculous, right? If you look at all the things that I've created, you go, you don't have any of this? I'm like, employee handbook, manuals, how things are done. I don't. And that is why we've gotten to a point where we work very fast, get things done, but we need to offload this. So this is to me like, I know this sounds so basic to you, I can feel that, but it's like music to my ears, and people are going, oh my God, they're lighting up all over the internet.
Well, people need to know what their role is within the organization. Like there's a mission that all companies have. The employee needs to understand what their part is in serving that mission. How do they contribute? So for Tesla, it's accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. We know that. That's the mission of the company. And everyone plays a role in serving that mission. And when they feel like they are genuinely contributing to that mission, that's fulfilling. Everybody wants purpose. The beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you define what that purpose is, because it's you. You're the center of the mission and why that company exists. But when you work for a company, that mission exists before you even arrived. And so once you arrive, part of onboarding is understanding, okay, now that I'm here, what's my stake in this? How am I contributing to this mission so that I could feel the same purpose that the founders feel, or the founder in the case of Elon?
Right. And, it's funny because I've got a bunch of people here. We did just bring on someone I think is pretty amazing. But I have people all the time ask me, what can I do for you? And I haven't really outlined how I can have people help me, which would help them. I know we have a great company that we run here. So that's my new little thing here. So Podify, we got about 3 minutes to our break. You started a podcast before you decided to actually run this company. When we come back, I want to talk to you about, I started a training called OPP. And it was initially other people's podcasts. How you leverage to build your list and your credibility, other people's podcasts. And then it grew into other people's platforms, because I also create people who can speak. I've been on television my whole life crafting these things, going, oh, you know what? If you build your personal brand in a way that people will want you. And so before we go, I got a lot of my students listening. When you look for guests for your show, what do you expect? How do you find your guests?
Well, like anything, it's about building a relationship. I think the more you can understand who that person is and what would be the reason they would say yes, the more you're going to have an approach that's built on intention as opposed to spray and pray. Like if you just send a bunch of blanket emails that don't have any personalization to it, that's a mistake. So an example is I just had the opportunity to meet somebody on Clubhouse. He's very successful. I have interacted with him a few times in a few rooms, and then I sent him a note, and I was very specific about what I love about him and why I would love to have him on the show. You got to be genuine and humble. And remember, it's not about you, it's about them. Don't ever think that you should be overselling yourself and pitching yourself. How do you make them feel like a rock star and a superhero, and making sure you talk about what specifically about them stand out, and make sure it's not something that everybody else says.
Billy, you're just like music to my ears right now, because that's actually, I also teach the art of pitching. Having been an infomercial host for my entire life, talking to a TV camera, I don't even get to talk to people. How do you get them to want to take their credit card out? And so I've been preaching those skills, and you sound like we were in cahoots before we had this interview. Well, we weren't, which is so nice. All right, 2 minutes. Advice for new people who want to start a podcast.
Oh, great. Yeah, I love this. Okay. Number one, what is your intention? Why are you doing the show? I think some people, there's really 3 buckets. One bucket, it's a hobby or a passion project. Another bucket is it's business development. It's supporting an existing business. A third bucket is you want to be the next Joe Rogan. Okay, let's take that third bucket out. Unless you
with hair.
Look, if you have an existing audience,
I got to interrupt you. I got to interrupt you because this is too good. My team just said I got a minute left. I took a bite of banana. I have to say, I do not want to be the next Joe Rogan. Joe wants to be me, but that's okay. I'm just joking with you. Hey guys, listen up. We got our last segment coming up. We're gonna take a quick break here, say hi to our sponsors. When we come back, we're gonna find out about having your own podcast, being the ideal podcast guest, and maybe how to monetize it. That's an interesting conversation we've not got into just yet with Billy. We're gonna be right back after this message. Do not go away.
All clear. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Thank you, my darling. When you're done with me, Forbes, I'm going to be the best in the you guys are great. I got a whole, what am I eating? I'm eating a banana. You know what? I started early this morning and I have to go late tonight. I'm teaching OPP. I've got Mastermind. Oh, be careful what you wish for. And this is something for you, actually. I have a publisher partner, and we actually publish books in 3 weeks. This is the largest entrepreneurial book ever. My partner is Steve. And these are cool because they're one habits. And literally I've got 150 authors from celebrities like Joe Theismann from the NFL and you actually open the book by going, oh, let's pick a habit here. Visualize everything in your mind. First 3 pages, Brendan McCauley, major digital marketer. They're awesome. So this was the first time I did anything with him. Then he came to me and said, I've got one habit for thriving in a post-COVID world. I put 100 authors in this. The next one that we're doing is one habit, something about thriving on Clubhouse, how to be a killer networker. And the cool thing about this, Billy, is it's a couple $100 to be a member, to be part of it. Whereas other compilation books can be thousands. We don't do this for the money. You not only get your chapter in the book, you get all this publicity, you get your own webpage, and they're just fun resources. So if that's interesting for Clubhouse, I might float that out to you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have I just got I got the audiobook of that one. In fact, I'm going to take a walk and listen to it today in preparation for our conversation tomorrow on my show.
Well, actually the preparation honestly for me is to watch videos. And I'll send you a couple of links because I hear this is kind of a fun thing to do on YouTube. If you type in my name and Kim Kardashian, you'll see how I gave her start in TV. Or you can type in motivation, see me on Grant Cardone's stage, crushing it with Ty Lopez. I've been around. I've done a couple of crazy things.
20 seconds.
Okay. And I've been on radio my entire life. Like I said, I took over for Mary Turner on Westwood One. I interviewed classic rock stars from Sting, Foreigner, Journey, Clapton, and that very famous Steely Dan one, because I didn't know Steely Dan was named for a steel dildo when I asked him.
You are listening to the Forbes Factor. To call in with a question or comment, please call 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. Or send an email to Forbes@ForbesRiley.com. Now back to the show. Here's Forbes Riley.
Hey, everybody, if you're coming back, you're understanding that Joe Rogan just said publicly he wants to be the next Forbes Riley. I find that so powerful. I think TMZ is opening up with all of that. And Joe and I both started hosting TV shows. He went the Fear Factor route, and I did a Disney show on how to make cupcakes. I don't know. How did he get the good job? Actually, we all had the same agent. I had him, myself, and Ryan Seacrest all had the same agent at some point. I will tell you, there's a very different world about being a guy in that world and a girl. Same thing in speaking on stage. That's a little bit of my platform. And not that I preach or teach it, it's just that it's a lot easier. You know why it's different from being a guy to a girl?
No, why?
Comes down to one thing: wardrobe. Think about this. If you put a girl in a suit, she looks like a newscaster. I wanted to be a game show host. There's no female game show host. Why is that? Because all the game show boys wear khaki pants, a white shirt, and a blue blazer. Doesn't matter who you are, Bob Barker, all the guys. That's right. Jeopardy doesn't matter. You put a girl in a dress and they have to stick her back there like Vanna, or they stick her turning letters like Price is Right. Or the little suitcases for Howie Mandel. Interesting. They're all dressed very sexy. There's no real, but if you are kind of neutral, you can host like Ellen or Oprah or Whoopi. I just never knew what
you could do it though. I mean, there's plenty of game shows that you could, for sure do right now. So it's,
Right. I know. Well, that actually was my dream. And I went off to Club Med and I created for 10 years. I worked on and off for Club Med. And one of them was I designed the game show week. And I made them create sets so I could host the dating game and Hollywood Squares and Match Game. And I love it. And the funny thing is, at 18 years of age, if you go on YouTube, my guys, and look up my name and $20,000 pyramid, you'll see me with Dick Clark and Dick Cavett. And I got to the big circle.
Wow.
I know. Right. That's a fun bit of trivia, right? All right. So getting back to you in podcasting, because we've got just a short amount of time left. And Billy, you got oodles of information here. So one of my first podcasts was when podcasting started. I ended up with John Lee Dumas on EO Fire, Entrepreneurs on Fire. I mean, I'm his 8th interview. And then he started publishing that he was making $250,000 a month off his podcasts. Billy, what would you recommend to people? How do you monetize this thing?
Well, his story is great because what he did is he took massive action and he started doing a daily podcast. So going back to what I said, I think most people fall into that middle bucket where they're supporting a business. And that's really smart because you could look at this from a networking play. Your guests could be your clients. So if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you have a service business, you could create a show where the guests that you bring onto your show could be potential clients. Or maybe your audience is potential customers as well. If you want to grow a massive show, guess what? It takes massive work, because podcasts, you throw it out there and no one will find it unless you do the legwork on getting it out there. Most people think they should spend 90% of their time on the content, 10% on the time on marketing. And I say inverse that. Switch it around, because if you really want your show to be found, it's up to you. It's not like you put it into a distribution channel like a YouTube or a spot, any other number of platforms where it could find people that are already there. Podcasts are very, very hard to find. So here's what you do. You know where your audience is. First, you got to know who your audience is so you can know where to find them. And then when you know where to find them, it starts small. It starts having those conversations, 1s and 2s and 3s. You're not going to talk to everybody right away, but you got to have long-term vision as a podcaster. So what do? I would say think of your podcast more about getting it to a niche or a niche, depending on who you ask how to say that word, and find out how you can best serve them. Be an advocate for your audience. And it's okay to have a title that's boring and descriptive as opposed to clever and unique. Meaning, like, if you have social media marketing podcast, okay, I know exactly what that's about. But if it's like something that's super abstract, people aren't going to know what it's about. So figure out a title where it's keyword rich and people will know what it's all about. And then get yourself immersed in wherever your audience is. If it's on Facebook, if it's on Twitter, if it's on Reddit, if it's some forum, wherever they're at, become part of that community and really build those relationships one at a time. You do your best, attempt to make sure that you're with them, not speaking to them, but that you're with them. And then guess what? Over time, your show will build, but it takes years, not months. And then the last thing I'll say is make sure that you are doing everything you can to get feedback so you can make your show better over time. And that comes with the conversation with your audience. When they feel involved, when they feel a part of it, that's when you build a community.
Oh man, you are priceless. You're absolutely you are such a right fit for my audience right now, because they're talking to us and so unbelievably helpful. So I got into it the other day in Clubhouse. I was hosting a room on pitching, and one of the guys said, you should marketing tips. And he says, you should start a podcast. I thought, oh, no. You should not start a podcast. I personally don't think you should start a podcast so you're on your first 100 of them. Leverage that, show that you have the skills, like you said, to market even that content. What's your take on it?
Well, I think, look, you have to recognize that when you start doing anything, you are going to suck. So your first episode will be worse than your 5th, and your 5th will be worse than your 10th.
And I have to quote you. Wait, what did you just say? When you start anything, you are going to suck.
You're going to suck.
I love that.
You're going to suck. Unless you have years of experience like you did, Forbes, most people, when they get behind a microphone, are going to be dreadful. And so you just got to know that. And so whatever your training ground is, if it's Clubhouse, if it's doing lives, if it's making videos for LinkedIn, get some sort of training ground to get yourself really good. Or maybe your training ground is the podcast. And so maybe you go in and you're that first bucket. You have a passion project or a hobby show where you're practicing and getting a feel for it. Maybe that blows up or maybe it doesn't, but you have to recognize that you will get better over time. And so starting a podcast is hard. I don't advise everybody start a podcast, but I think anyone who does it should know that when they do it, it is not something that you're going to see instant results from. And so get used to the fact that you're going to be talking to a microphone and only a handful of people are going to be listening for the first few shows. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a couple thousand people that listen, but to get to the numbers like Joe Rogan or others to where you're getting the true advertising dollars, you need to have 50, 100, 200,000 downloads an episode, or even a few million downloads an episode to get into the real money. Now, one thing I'll add is if you have a hyper niche, let's say you have something like my friend Harry Duran, it's on vertical farming, it's super niche. Like, what is that? I don't even know. But we know that anybody listening knows that market. They're in that market. You could get a sponsor for that specific type of show where they know you're speaking to the people that they also want to speak to. And so that's why going with the niche is really helpful, because then people will actually pour into that show, and you could expand over time into other shows or do other things, but start small and then expand out. And again, I think you could always think about it from a perspective of make sure you are able to be a media company, not just a podcaster. So what's your social media following? What are your total numbers, not just your downloads? Do you have people viewing your Instagram or your LinkedIn or YouTube? And then you could speak to your sponsors with a bit more of a breadth of what you're offering them. Maybe you're on 100 podcasts a year. And that's something where you could talk about the fact that your sponsor is X. So all of those things will help.
I'm just loving you. What a great guest you are.
Oh, thanks.
And probably a very good co-host. I think I'm being on your show tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do you advise? Thank you. Does your company handle, so the podcast itself is one thing, producing and getting that made. Marketing is another thing. What is the after part? When I see now people cutting pieces up and putting them on Instagram and doing the ancillary marketing beyond that, is that what your company offers or teaches, or what do you suggest about that?
Yes, we offer that. So we do a few things. We do repurposing of content. So right now, short form, especially sub 1 minute, is super hot on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Get your content really short. So think about it from this perspective. It's a memeable video. What is so interesting about that episode that everyone will want to share it? Because ultimately, the way shows blow up is not because you're great at marketing. It's because you're great at finding what people will share with other people. And what happens when we share something, or why do we share something? We're surprised. Something so unique, so novel, so different that we have to share it with somebody else because we want to release the cognitive burden of being like, oh, I just saw this thing, I have to share it, right? So create moments with your show that make other people want to share it. So that's part one. The second part is make sure that you use anything and test. Like, for example, Facebook marketing with one of my clients, Dr. Laura Berman. She's doing amazing. She's got a show. I know
Dr. Laura. She was on my talk show years ago.
I'm sure. Yeah. So we produced her show, The Language of Love. And she's doing things that will help her show grow. But because people know who she is, when we think about targeting and advertising, it's not just about Dr. Laura, it's Dr. Laura and the subject. It's Dr. Laura and the subject and maybe who she's worked with and some of her previous radio shows. And so we can get a much more targeted approach to find our audience. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. Find your people, find your tribe, find your audience. And then as far as like the other piece of advertising and promoting your show, remembering that, when you create these short segments and what my company is able to do, it has to deliver in a way in which other people will make sure that you are the one who is actually shining, and that you're giving everyone else that's listening a chance to spread the word for you and make it as easy as possible for them. The more easy you make it for them to share, the more likely they will. And then create contests and other things that are fun and exciting.
And that's what your company offers?
Yeah. I mean, anything that you want from a production and from a promotion standpoint, we do it. We do web development, we do advertising, we do repurposing, creating short form video content. All of that are the things that we do. And we're all about partnering. I look at anybody that I work with as a partner. I don't look at it as, this is a new client. I want to work with you to produce your show, to make your show shine, to make your show as successful as you want it to be, and to reach the goal and intention that you have for your show. Everybody's got a different intention. What's yours? And what do you want from your show? We're going to help you achieve that.
Nice. Remind everybody how we met.
So we met through Clubhouse, and you're amazing because you come into the room and always bring so much value, Forbes. And one of the things that I appreciate about you, amongst many things, is that you inspire other people to do what they know they want to do, but are afraid to do. And that is such a gift, that inspiration that you unlock their potential by sharing your journey, by sharing everything that you've done. And also by being a trailblazer, especially as a woman in, let's face it, male-dominated fields like public speaking and even entertainment. You have done what others haven't, and that's so inspiring and empowering. And so guess what? Other people learn and listen, and I've heard people's reaction. I've listened, even when I wasn't on stage with you, I was in the audience, and I was hearing what people were saying about the impact that you've made on them. And so Clubhouse is such an amazing platform for you and I to meet. We maybe wouldn't have met otherwise. And guess what? Now I'm on your show, and tomorrow you're on my show. It's an amazing way to gain access to other people that you might not otherwise meet.
Well, there's a quote you just said. I wrote down the time about who I am, and I appreciate that. Love that word, trailblazer. And it's fun because I don't even think people have even tapped into that. I mean, I helped create the X Games for ESPN with Stuart Scott. Like, really? Who is this person? So thank you, because for so many years, I didn't matter to anybody. And I will tell you, it is a very nice full circle for me personally to know that anything that I do or say actually matters to anybody. So without being humble, it's real. That's actually how I feel. So it's been great.
Well, you are as real as they come. You are as real as they come. I mean, let's just call it as I see it. You know, you always are speaking your truth. You say what other people are afraid to say. And that right there allows other people to do the same that maybe were intimidated or afraid to do so.
You're gonna make me cry. That's actually very powerful what you just said, because I am also teaching now and giving people voices in a way, you know, off camera. We've only got 2 minutes, but you mentioned about how acting and other things may have played into my ability to do this. Most people don't have the skills. Most people got kicked out of, you get out of college and you're there and you're like standing on the street corner going, who's supposed to hire me with this piece of paper called a resume? And what do I do with it? And so I value that very much. 1 minute closing thoughts to the world.
Oh, well, I think that ultimately what we all have to do is be our true self. I think we often play this comparison game. Comparison is the thief of joy. So remember, you're only competing against yourself. So how do you get 1% better than you were yesterday? And how will you be 1% better tomorrow than you are today? And the way in which you do that is by being honest with yourself about where you can make improvements, and not just on your opportunities, but on your strengths. I'm a big believer in the strengths perspective, which my cousin actually formulated this.
That's 4 seconds.
Yeah, no, just keep doubling down on your strengths.
I love that. And comparison is the thief of joy. Billy Samoa, Salibi, you are awesome. I will see you tomorrow on your podcast. Give me information so I can publish it here so everybody can come join us tomorrow. And thank you, my dear friend, for being part of my show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon. This was awesome. Mwah.
Bye. See you. Thank you.
All clear. Great job today, everyone.
All right.
Dude, oh my God, you totally nailed this. Was that good, right?
That was awesome. Thank you so much. It's so fun. I love it. I love the energy.
Have a great day, Forbes.
I will, Andrew, thank you very much. You have a whole lot of fans right now on my it's called Forbes Riley's Inner Circle. Pretty large audience, 135 comments, people just kind of yakking away and loving on each other. For most of you, I will see you at 4:00 in OPP or tonight in Mastermind. I'm going to say bye to you guys and hang out with Billy just for a second. Mwah. Bye, you guys. And I also normally do this on Clubhouse as well. there's so much going on. I only have so many things.
It's a lot. I got you.
But I own a television studio. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that. Where's that at?
Yeah, it's in St. Pete. That's one of the joys of not living in Los Angeles, is I own a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art TV studio. Yeah, I'll share this with you. Real quick. That's right. We're all going to be talking tomorrow. Just to give you a little insight for the living demo. This would be my studio. Hi, everybody. I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Forbes Living, where we make the world your stage. You know, from being in movies and commercials to hosting television shows, my career, well, it's allowed me to see the world and to talk to real people about their hopes, their dreams. And what I wanted to do here was to create a show that allowed me to give them an opportunity to change their lives. And that's what this is all about.
I graduated from Duke I got a degree in physics, but I just love making music. So I moved out to San Francisco, started a record label, Blue House Records.
See, that's true. You know, my goal with the show is to give people a platform where they can tell their story, share their idea with the world, and we created Forbes Living.
Kevin Harrington here, an original shark from Shark Tank. I think one of the biggest things I learned from being on Shark Tank is that there's an incredible amount of innovative ideas out there, but very few places to really showcase them. We would get over 50,000 submissions, but only 200 of them would end up making it on the show. The other side of that is that it takes a very keen eye to spot a really great idea. And Forbes is someone who has that sensibility. She's always been one step ahead of the industry, and Forbes Living is a chance for her to give those 49,000 plus ideas a home.
I think one.
Love it. Yeah, that's amazing. When did you get that? When did you build that?
I did that about 8 years ago, right down the street from my house, which is cool.
I love it. So you're in St. Pete, right?
I am, which is great. I have property on both sides of the coast on the water, and then downtown. And it's so much nicer than LA because you can afford so much more.
Oh yeah,
And
a lot more for your money, no doubt.
yes, and I raised my 2 kids here. They just turned 18. I got to tell you, this has been 4 months in the making and a lifetime to actually get here.
You think for prep I should be watching?
When I heard her story.
Say again?
So you think for prep I should be watching the videos on these types of videos, the videos on YouTube?
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple of them because there's no place else to find out about me. It's not very organized. Give a minute.
It just touched my heart.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get
starting. So I gotta.
Yes, I will give you a list of 5 of them, from acting to spin gym to things that you don't know, and yeah, it'll help you because it's fun. It helps, I think, to know some of these crazy things about me.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for our conversation. There's already like a bunch. This helped actually too because you gave me a few different things that I want to ask tomorrow. So it'll be a fun conversation.
Well, what I really want to ask, and I didn't realize that you have an agency, is that I don't do much with my podcasts, and I'm excited to blow this up. It's been on for a long time. I've got a lot of great guests coming. We have no strategy for this. Remember I said that whole thing about organization? This is one of those holes in my company.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, good to know. Let's wrap more about that, and happy to share any insights and also see if there's any synergies that could exist. But let's talk. I guess we could talk more tomorrow if you want, or set up another time. Totally open to that. And yeah, it'd be fun. And also I appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, I appreciate it. You know what? I seem to be moved to all the right people, and you were exactly the right guest for my audience and my ears today. So thank you.
Oh, you're too kind. I appreciate that, Forbes. Have a great day. Good to see you.